What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with Cheesehead TV, talking football with Andy Herman, Pack-A-Day Podcast, Packer Report, anything Packers. Andy's all over it. Andy, Packers over the Ravens. What are we feeling about this game? Obviously, the offense continues to basically hum along, maybe some bips and bops there at the end, but the offense has really found its groove for a team that was having issues throughout much of the season. I mean, they're hitting their stride at the right time.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, a couple throws I think Aaron would like to have back. One on the first drive to Devontae, the last one to Alan Lazard in the back of the end zone, which probably would have sealed the game right then and there. I think a couple things like that, but I think that just goes to show they put up 30 plus and missed a couple of those opportunities that they don't normally miss. And there was, again, opportunity for more points out there. So I know that Matt LaFleur is going to love to kind of look at some of those things. I still think the running game can get going a little bit more. I think we still haven't seen the explosivity of that running game that we saw a season ago. But overall, I think the way Aaron's playing as a whole right now, the way that this offensive line is finding a way to hold up despite having four starters on, I know it's been a talking point for forever now, but it doesn't get old talking about the fact that they are down four starters and still holding up front. It's just absolutely crazy.
You mentioned the running game. I was surprised how effective it was, actually. And it's not that they committed to it in a big way, because obviously they didn't. But Aaron Jones found more than enough as far as, there were a number of times he had like 8-9 yard gains on first down to put them in advantageous spots. He did a really good job of getting skinny, which is something he needed to do because, as you mentioned, it wasn't like they were blowing open wide holes for him to run through or anything. But I was surprised, especially given, I know Calais Campbell was out, but I was surprised how effective it was at times, just in the sense that the Ravens have been an excellent run defense. And I know Campbell is very much a big part of that, but even with his absence, I did not expect them to be just as effective as they were on early downs. I think that's kind of I thought a real testament to the work that the guys on the interior were doing. That's a group that has not been great in the run game, but I thought they held up enough to get Aaron going.
Yeah, I thought Runyon and Nyman both had strong games in that regards. And then I think we've just reached a point where it's so easy to take Aaron Jones for granted. And I know he hasn't had a lot of the explosive numbers, and I know that he missed a couple games here and there, and him and Dylan are splitting more time this season. But man, you just get the ball in his hands and you just are able to see what he's able to do with so little at times. And, there's plays where there's not much there for him and he's still picking up 8-9 yards. Of course, he's getting more involved in the passing game still. We saw another passing touchdown to him this week. So it's just very easy to take for granted what he's able to do with, sometimes even very little to work with. He's so freaking good.
And the tight end position, obviously we saw the production out of Big Dog. We know what he can do when it comes to the blocking. DeGuara, I think, was a bit up and down in this game, but Davis, the young pup, I thought he played really well. You mentioned it on Twitter, not just the play up the seam, but the blocking as well. They might have a player there.
I was like geeking out about Tyler Davis and just some of this, in a very similar way to when Tunyon first came on, where you saw some of the effort stuff as a blocker and you saw his ability to get up the seam here and there. And you just wanted to see him fully put that together. And of course, it's going to take some time, and I'm sure there's going to be some hiccups. But man, you talk about a player who gets his opportunity. And there have been a couple plays in previous games, like one of his very first.
I was just going to say, this is not a new thing. Like, he's been solid on tape every single time he's gotten an opportunity.
Yeah, and it hasn't always been much, but I think it was one of his first snaps, if not his first snap, where there's a run to the right side and he's the back left side tight end, and he runs all the way across the field and he's blocking a guy way down, he finds a corner, gets him, he's just an effort guy, and some of that stuff can go a long way. But when you get those actual snaps and you get your opportunity to not only just show insane effort as a blocker, but also show the ability to get the job done, but then B, you get a chance up the seam where Rodgers literally holds the ball so he can take a hit, and you come up with that play and make the catch. That's certainly going to gain some trust there as well. I think it was only around 19 snaps, but he made the most of them, and that was really exciting to see.
What I love about that seam play is Rodgers is getting blitzed, and that outside corner is coming, it's bearing down on him. And as a quarterback, that is your responsibility. That free rusher, you have to get the ball out to beat that blitz. And the fact that he trusts the kid in that spot with the rush coming down on him. He doesn't take a check down. He doesn't try and throw the ball away. He throws up the seam 22 yards to this kid who's barely had any playing time. I think that's one for the old memory bank for Rodgers as far as being able to trust him to be where he's supposed to be.
Agreed.
Look at the job that the kind of supporting cast, if you will, did in the sense of Devontae Adams got the Randy Moss treatment. I've seen a couple of memes online about, back in the day when Megatron would be doubled at the goal line. That's
Yes.
one thing. But Devontae literally got Randy Moss after exploding on the scene his rookie year. That's pretty much the only time I can remember teams doubling a wide receiver going so far as if he motions across the formation, you have two guys going with him. That's a very rare air. And we saw that with Devontae, and he was still somewhat productive. He had the touchdown, a couple, I think he had 6 receptions. But man, the job that MVS and Lazard did, kind of picking up the slack, I think you can't say enough about it, especially MVS. For a guy who's taken as much junk as he has throughout the early part of his career, it's great to see him rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and I think it was certainly needed these past 2 weeks with both of these teams giving so much focus to Devontae, and to be able to see, no Randall Cobb, Devontae doubled, or at least a lot of attention given his way in the Bears game as well, and to see Lazard step up in such a big way 2 weeks ago, and then this past week to see MBS step up, and I wouldn't even put it past Rodgers to also understand that once playoffs come, this is exactly what's going to happen as well. Teams are going to take Devontae out of it. So he knows that, Lazard and MVS are going to need to get going, that he's going to have to get those guys some momentum and some, just some production and confidence going into the playoffs. And I think both of them responded great. I think both of them were able to show not only, separation, but hands at the point of attack, run after catch ability in these past couple of weeks. So no, I think we've all seen this from MVS. It just kind of comes and goes. But I think the other thing that's worth noting here too, for guys like Lazard and MVS, they can do this. But the thing is, this is an offense that's predicated upon Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, as it should be. And then everyone else, Mercedes is going to get a couple bites here and there, and Dylan's going to get some action. And then you've got MVS and Lazard, and we've had Cobb, and there's just a lot of mouths to feed after those top two. And when you've got two alpha guys that you want to get the ball to as much as possible, everyone else has to take a little bit of a secondary role. So to get those guys rolling at the right time, I think is super important. And to see both of them respond when given that opportunity, I think is still really huge for both of their confidence as well as Rodgers' confidence going to them.
Yeah, no doubt about that last part. Switching it around to the defensive side of the ball, I was asked this on my Packers Daily Chat, and I want to get your take on it because I'm always the optimist. You know me. I'm always rooting for the team. Do we think, or do you think, that the defense is trending downward, or do you think this is something where they've faced some mobile quarterbacks, no doubt about it, and they've had some issues there, but they're still playing at a high level, and they will get it figured out, much like the offense did?
I'm more of the optimist on your side as well. I thought the Chicago game was much better on tape than what the results showed. I think a lot of that was some special teams miscues, and I think they really got things sorted out in the second half. Now, it's Chicago, and we just saw last night how putrid their offense is. So even allowing 17 points, you can question it, but I still like what they put on tape against Chicago. I think, against Baltimore, I do think some of it was, I actually think this was a little bit more scheme and I don't know if I want to say coaching, but some of the stuff with Savage on Andrews and just knowing going into that game that you need to control a mobile quarterback and you need to control Mark Andrews, and that's pretty much your two aspects that you need to make sure that you shut down. And they not only did they not do that to start off with, or have a great game plan, in my opinion, for that to start off with, but the lack of adjustments to being able to kind of fix it as the game went on, even going down to those last 2 touchdown drives where, again, mobile quarterbacks getting out of the pocket and Mark Andrews is still making catches. You have to be able to adjust to some of that stuff. So I think they'll learn from that. I think there is a slight bit of concern there of just game plan and adjustments, but overall, I don't think there was a major issue or breakdown from talent or the ability for this defense to get stops. And credit Huntley in Baltimore too. I thought he made a lot of really good plays, a lot of really good reads. As I was going through that game, I'm like, you keep waiting for Huntley to make a mistake on a read or a throw, and it just didn't come. And I mean, for a quarterback that is so, as inexperienced as he is, you just don't see that very often. He played a fantastic game.
Yeah, I very much agree. What was interesting, to your point about the game plan coming in. Fields had some nice plays a couple weeks ago as well, getting outside the pocket, breaking contain, and Huntley ran all over them. I mean, it is something where I know that they want to get after the quarterback, they have their assignments, etc. But man, it doesn't matter if it's Rashawn, although he does seem to be the guilty party most of the time.
Yeah, I thought he had a tough game.
But Preston's been guilty of it as well. They try to get inside the tackles, and the moment that happens against these mobile quarterbacks, you're giving them basically half the field to kind of roam around. And we saw them, especially Huntley, take it again and again. To the Andrews issue, that was the most mystifying to me. It's not like I trust Stokes and Douglas and those guys to match up with anybody on the perimeter that the Ravens are going to throw at you. Why you don't come into that game doubling right off the bus Andrews every single down, I was mystified, and it was so clear that Savage was overmatched very early on. I know they tried King on Andrews a little bit later, and varying degrees of success, but yeah, that was. I'm with you, man. That to me, I didn't understand the approach at all.
I have a question for you as well. So I feel like, and this is a legitimate question. Like, I'm not trying to be like snarky in any way, shape, or form here. Like, I legitimately feel like I have a fairly good understanding of what defenses are trying to accomplish. And I know people don't like some of the off coverages and stuff, but this is something that every team is running. The best defenses are running. They're playing a lot of off zone coverage. It's working. Quarterbacks are getting frustrated. They can't get the explosive plays. I feel like I understand all of that. I am just befuddled beyond befuddled with the 3rd and 7, 4th and 7 situations where you're giving them 7 yards or 8 yards or whatever is needed and playing off coverage. I totally understand the idea and the concept of it, but I feel like situationally in those specific situations that I'm completely, I don't know if you have an answer to it. I don't know what it is. I'm so confused by it.
I wish I had an answer to it. And I know it's something that I went after Matt about a few times last year. Now he's changed coordinators and they had it again. I did find it interesting that Matt brought it up unprompted in his presser on Monday. I think he's a little befuddled and frustrated about their performance, those last 2 drives in particular, for the exact reason you're talking about. What's kind of crazy to me is like, well, you brought in Joe to be an extension of you. Should you not be imparting to your guy and your guys that that's how you want defense to be played on 3rd and whatever? Like, I get it on 1st and 2nd, exactly what you're talking about, Andy, as far as like, this is the league now. We're going to make you go 12, 13, 14 plays. And if you do that and don't make any mistakes, we'll bully for you. You maybe get a field goal, possibly get a touchdown, but we're going to force you to do that. But I can't understand the 3rd and 4, we're playing 7 yards off stuff. Especially now, here's the other thing too. In past years, maybe I could understand it because of a personnel situation, right? Like maybe they felt you didn't have the guys who could go up there and do it. But that's literally all Kevin King is good for. Douglas, we know, is physical enough to do it. Stokes has certainly shown he can do it, although he is always playing off. Like, I'm with you, man. It is mystifying. I wish I had a better answer for it. Maybe we see a little bit more now that Matt said it publicly. Maybe they get after a little bit more, and I definitely plan on asking Barry about it when we get him this week. But yeah, I'm with you. It is frustrating beyond belief, and I think we're all scarred because that was kind of the approach at the end of the 2014 championship game. I'll never forget. There was literally a play where they completed a pass. I think it was to Marshawn Lynch, actually, but he got tackled inbounds, and you see McCarthy doing this, like just run the clock. And I think that was their approach at the end of this game. Like, keep it all in front of you, tackle them in bounds, keep the clock going. The problem is they kept marching down the field and you never got to stop.
Right.
So I'm with you on that. What did you think about the play of the defensive line sans Kenny Clark? Because I thought Slayton had not a rough game, but not a great game.
Yeah.
But I did think like Tyler and Dean and those guys held up really well.
Yeah, this was a really tough game defensively, especially on the line to evaluate because Baltimore's offense, I thought they did a really good job of keeping Green Bay off balance. And even later stages of the game where, again, you're so cognizant of not wanting to let Huntley out of the pocket that you're like, it's almost just like, you're not trying to get too far upfield or, allow a rushing lane. Right. So like it limits the amount of pass rush that you're able to get from those guys. And then even in the run game, like they're doing so much stuff where it's like read option, where if you're, again, you get out of one gap, like it opens up something entirely for someone else. So I thought overall, sans Kenny, given how much Baltimore threw at them with, again, Huntley's running ability, with the ability to run play action or read option and just everything that was there, I thought they held up about as well as could possibly be expected, again, without Kenny Clark. I didn't think there was anything super flashy. I think Dean and Kiki both had passes that they batted down at the line of scrimmage. Not a ton of pressure. I know Preston and, Gary kind of forced the intentional grounding on the one.
Right.
I think Campbell technically got credited for a sack, unless they said that was a running play.
No, they gave him the sack because off to the right there on the fourth down.
Yeah,
they counted
but
that as a sack.
Overall, I thought they held up mostly well. Again, it's just a really tough matchup, I thought, and I thought Baltimore did a great job of scheming against Green Bay.
Very much agreed there. Finally, Mo Drayton. Special teams. You remember how like the start of the year we never talked about special teams because like we came into the year saying all we want is competence and that's it. Fine, just catch the ball, blah blah blah. And for a while, we kind of got that, but now it's a weekly thing where we have another boneheaded mistake with Yadam running into the kick return. What on earth? I can't, Andy. I come here every week and I need to yell at someone, so you get the brunt of it. But
it's all good.
But here's the thing, like I get so many people in my mentions and in my chats talking about how this is the week they got to fire Mo Drayton. Number one, Mo ain't getting fired in the middle of the year. Number two, I can't put it on Mo when Yadam is doing something that idiotic.
And then a couple of them, right? Like you have the ball squirt through the legs of Patrick Taylor. Like that's not on Mo.
I can't.
From Matt's comments yesterday, it sounds like they were calling for the snap and Wordle just didn't snap it. And then, Wordle has a low snap on the poor Bajorquez punt. The holding on Amari's return looked a little bit weak, but these are things that I guarantee, are coached throughout the week. And at some point it comes down to execution. But again, as we've talked about on numerous occasions, Aaron, this is more than just the special teams coach. This is a systemic issue for this franchise for some time now. And I think part of it is not having the players that are needed to execute on special teams. This is a draft and develop team where those last spots on the roster are set to develop into future starters for the roster. And I think a lot of times you end up keeping players that are, you're hoping are going to develop into future starters rather than that are current great special teams players, which sometimes you need at the bottom of your roster. So I think it's all, it's all a Rubik's Cube that a GM has to figure out. We have seen, even going back to last year, I forget who was there was a couple of corners. There was one corner for sure that got activated in the postseason over Josh Jackson. And I think even over Kadar Hallman.
Oh yeah.
And I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but they did make a couple of late season additions, from the practice squad to the active roster just for the sake of shoring up special teams. I'm wondering if that's a Gutekunst thing where it's almost like your September call-ups in baseball where, you're kind of just fidgeting with the roster and trying to keep as many guys as you can on that 53 that you want to sort of protect. And then when it comes, last week of the regular season or sort of postseason, you're calling up a couple of these guys to put your best 48 actually on the field, including special teams. And maybe he makes a couple of adjustments late in the year. We just saw them pick up a linebacker yesterday who's mostly been known for his special teams. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm willing to try it and see them try anything at this point.
Hey, and look. And here's the thing. And here's what I kind of pointed out the other day. The mistakes the gaffes are horrible and we all frustrated with them. I get it. However, there are things that are trending the right way, whether it's Mason Crosby. Remember we had a stretch there where that was you were holding your breath every time. And he seemingly the operation, including everyone, the long snapper, the holder, the kick itself has seemingly kind of righted the ship there. And hey, Packers fans, they got an onside kick successfully. We all know what a nightmare that could have been and has been in the past. We actually had a dude bypass the ball and actually do his assignment and block someone so that the guy designated to catch it and A.J. Dillon actually caught it. So There's green shoots, as Corey likes to say, green shoots on special teams.
Cavarie Russell, the he shall who
There you
I couldn't
go.
remember.
Well
Who
done.
could forget the
Well
run
done.
of Cavarie Russell?
How could you? The
How could
Packers,
you
Packers legend, Cavarie Russell.
If anyone, as I was talking about that, if anyone was thinking, "Oh yeah, Cavarie Russell," kudos to you.
Well done.
I give you a shout out.
Andy, no one was thinking Russell. I can guarantee it. I can't thank you enough hanging out every week talking football with me, Andy. Make sure you check out his work on Pack a Day Podcast, Packer Report, purveyor of fine Packers takes everywhere you go on the internet. Andy, thanks so much, man.
Appreciate it, Andy.